If you're an old school hip hop fan, you are probably a fan of Outkast, and you remember the infamous line from Andre 3000, virtual reality, virtual bullshit. Now with E3 coming up very soon, this week actually, we're going to be seeing a lot of virtual reality stuff, and it's been a long time coming. Virtual reality has been around for quite a while, so for this video I kind of wanted to share my experiences with virtual reality in the past and in the present, and where I see virtual reality heading in the future in terms of gaming. Is it going to be a fad, or is it going to be a longevity thing and it'll be sticking around and it'll start being the standard in video games? So first and foremost, let me tell you about my history with virtual reality. I remember I was probably 8 or 9 and I was at the Massachusetts State Fair called the Big E, and they had some virtual reality there to try out. And I was probably 92 or 93, and I remember you got into this big circular area and you put on a headset and you were put into this sort of 3D dungeon crawler game where, you know, everything was very immersive in your headset. It was like 10 bucks for like 5 minutes or something, which back in, 92, 93 money, that was a lot of money. So it was kind of interesting though. I remember having fun with it, and I had never experienced anything like it. Nobody had, because virtual reality was so brand new in the early to mid 90s. And as the early to mid 90s went along, we started to see more virtual reality stuff. You had the show called VR Troopers. We are VR, which was sort of a Power Rangers type show, and virtual reality was also in movies with Lawnmower Man. So obviously virtual reality was coming, or so we thought. Nintendo, of course, released the Virtual Boy, which was the first supposed virtual reality home console system. And yeah, it wasn't that good. I actually picked a Virtual Boy over a Sega Saturn or a PlayStation 1 Christmas during one year, and I did have fun with it, but obviously it wasn't a virtual reality system. It was only 2 different colors, and it was more of a 3D thing, more so than anything else. So I don't really think it's fair to call the Virtual Boy a virtual reality system, but there was some cool effects. Games like Tellero Boxer, it really made you feel like someone was punching at you, and I really enjoyed that about the system. Now, Nintendo wasn't the only manufacturer that did consoles that was looking into virtual reality. Not a lot of people know this, but Atari was also looking at virtual reality with the Jaguar. They were going for a Jaguar VR, and that never really got off the ground. There is a prototype unit available that I've actually seen a video of online, but once again, the technology just wasn't quite there. And so virtual reality kind of got pushed to the back burner, after a lot of people thought that in the mid 90s we're finally going to see it come to the limelight and be a part of video gaming. It went away, and it went away for quite a while actually. It went away until, about 2014, when Sony started touting that they were bringing virtual reality back, and of course you had the Oculus Rift and all of the PC stuff. Now for this video, I'm not going to really talk about the PC stuff because I'm not a PC gamer. I feel that some of my topics and points will be applicable to the PC market, but mostly I'm going to focus on, the home console side of things because, that's what I know and that's what I do. So looking at virtual reality, Sony is bringing out the PlayStation VR, which will be on display this week at E3, and it's definitely going to be a focal point for them because that's something they're really pushing. Now, whenever I see these virtual reality machines, I think of one thing: motion controls. Remember motion controls? Of course you do, everyone does. But motion controls were supposed to be the next big thing in gaming. The Wii really sparked that sort of thing, and people were all about motion controls. You had PlayStation come out with the PlayStation Move, you had Xbox or Microsoft come out with the Xbox Kinect, and what happened with those? They fizzled out. Because that's kind of what they were. They were more of a fad than a real traditional sort of stepping stone for gaming. They weren't going to replace anything in gaming, even though these companies thought they would. I'm sure Nintendo thought that motion controls was the future. This is what video gaming is going to be, motion controls. Microsoft said, you know what, Xbox Kinect, you're interacting with things, you're in the game. This is going to be the future of gaming. Same thing with PlayStation Move, but it wasn't. Now, why is that? The technology was pretty decent, especially with the Wii Motion Plus. Xbox Kinect was pretty solid from what I played on it. I never had a chance to play PlayStation Move, but I assume it would be very similar to the Xbox Kinect. So why did these fail if they were supposed to be the future of gaming? It's pretty simple, honestly. It's just way too different. The average gamer does not want to experience something like that. One of the best things about video games is just relaxing, sitting back with a controller in your hand and playing a traditional gaming experience. And these were more of interactive. You have to get up, you have to move and stuff like that. And there's a place for it in gaming. I'm not going to say that motion controls is a complete waste, because I actually like motion controls for certain things. Sort of like in my Ghostbusters review, I felt that Ghostbusters really benefited from the motion controls, but most games didn't. Most games it was just tacked on. So now, of course, virtual reality is supposed to be the next big thing, and I just can't help but feel that a lot of similarities to virtual reality also coincide with what motion controls were. You gotta remember, virtual reality, you're gonna have a headset on, and you're pretty much gonna be alienated. Sure, it's gonna immerse you in the game, but it's really gonna alienate you as well. You're gonna have to be very interactive. You're gonna have to be very on your toes. It's not gonna be necessarily a relaxing experience. And something I also want to mention is that one of the problems with the Virtual Boy was that people were getting motion sickness. You could play it for a little while and you would get headaches, and this wasn't applicable to everyone. I actually never had a problem with it, but there were a lot of people that did. Now, speaking with some of my friends who have Oculus Rift dev kits, some of them could play for 1 or 2 hours with no problems. Some could only play for 5 or 10 minutes without feeling nauseous, getting headaches and light sensitivity and things like that. And that's going to be a big problem because you're alienating people. Now, of course, the biggest issue with virtual reality is the price. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, on the PC side of things, things are already getting cheap. And you're right. That's actually a good thing. I remember my friend Jordan from After End Media showed me something that you could use on your cell phone that was $30, and essentially it was like almost like a what was the thing? The Vivitar, the thing where you press the buttons and the picture would change. It was essentially like that. And it was for a 3D thing. You'd strap it to your phone and it made everything 3D. And this was a $30 add-on. So why is the average consumer going to pay $400+ for a PlayStation virtual reality thing that your cell phone can do for a fraction of the price? You also have to remember one thing. This more than likely is not going to be compatible with the current PlayStation 4 model. It's going to require the PlayStation Neo. So in order to experience virtual reality, you're going to have to spend almost $1,000 for the PlayStation Neo and the PlayStation virtual reality system. That's a lot of money, especially when you can do it cheaper on the PC and even completely cheaper on your cell phone. You also have to remember one thing. In order to create a true virtual reality experience, development costs are going to be through the roof for these companies. And if you want to really make a true virtual reality experience, you're going to kind of have to alienate the original PlayStation 4 model. Because if you just add it on, it's not going to be a real incentive for people to go out and buy this. You're going to have to create a game solely for this virtual reality system. And are developers really, are they really going to spend the money and extra development time and put all their eggs in that virtual reality basket when if that game doesn't sell, it will probably sink their company? I don't know. Now, I think virtual reality does have a place in gaming, much like motion controls does, but it's a back seat. It's never going to be the prominent, the standard. The standard is always going to be a controller and maybe a controller accessory, sort of like a Wii U gamepad, touch screens and stuff like that. Those are fun. Those are easy to do, and they don't require a lot of work. They don't really, require you to exert a lot of energy or get up and move around. They're just fun and they add to the game, whereas virtual reality becomes the game. So I think the PC market will be fine because there's going to be a lot of cheaper alternatives. But on the home console, I just don't think it will really be as successful as it can be. Now, I do think virtual reality can be successful in one thing: entertainment. You see, if you could take a virtual vacation with your virtual reality headset, that's pretty damn cool. And that's where I see virtual reality really striking, finding its niche. Well, that and porn, because virtual reality porn just sounds great. But I just don't see virtual reality being a huge force in gaming like Sony is anticipating, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens with all of this. So far, virtual reality has been a complete dud in console gaming. Will Sony be able to change this? I guess the future will tell. Let me know what you think about virtual reality in the comments section down below. Be sure to subscribe and like this video if you haven't already, because you should. It makes me feel good about myself. And I'll see you guys next time for another discussion video. Later.